What's up, Ego Hackers? Welcome to the CS Joseph podcast. I'm your host, CS Joseph, obviously. And today we're going to be talking about the further stupidity of the dating market in the safe zones. The safe zones where everyone wants to play it safe, and who better to play it safe than the imploders, implosive women, implosive men. And because they play it safe so much, you know what ends up happening? You have two implosive people getting into a sexual relationship, but quite frankly, they oftentimes end up married. You know, they won't have that one-night stand. They won't. And these are the people who, they're both virgins when they get married, versus the exploders. They have explosive relationships. They meet at the bar. They have their one-night stand. Everything just doesn't work out, and they're wondering what the hell is going on. And the woman has lost a lot more of her value because she's just added another notch on her sexual history. So terrible. So stupid. So ignorant. But guess what? Imploder relationships, they're not even better, because unlike having an exploder relationship where you have overt abuse, guess what? In an imploder relationship, you have covert abuse. Oh, yay. Covert abuse. And covert abuse is actually much harder to detect. And years and years of damage and psychological trauma could end up actually being stacked up in an imploder relationship. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's so bad. It's so bad. So I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you why this is bad. I'm going to tell you how it happens. And then, what to do. That's the whole point of this episode anyway. Holy shit, you guys are getting a lot of value from me. You're getting a lot of value. But here's the thing. You want to get some real value from me? You actually have to know how to identify your own octagram and the octagram of other people, as well as your personality type. Sure, that's helpful too. But really, the octagram is absolutely critical. You do this at school.com/CSJoseph, SKOOL, and you sign up for a $29 a month membership. You just get in and go into the classroom immediately, classroom tab, and it's the top leftmost course, How to Personality Type Yourself 2.0, also known as Season 40. Take the entire course, and you'll know what to do, how to prevent this stupid. And then if you want to go even further to optimize your relationships in your life, get Season 42, upgrade to premium, or just buy the course straight up in school, and it's in the classroom section, Season 42, compatibility, and learn compatibility so you can optimize things further, okay? Just do that. But here's the thing. Why are imploder relationships bad? Let me tell you. Nothing is ever talked about. There is zero communication, and absolutely everything in the relationship is swept under the rug. And this basically ends up creating a couple who is incapable of making decisions. And then they're having sex. And then that leads, and by the way, that sex is unfulfilling. Exploder sex, guess what? In general, unfulfilling. Imploder sex is especially unfulfilling. That's really bad, in my opinion. It's worse. It's way worse for imploder. And then they don't even talk about sex. They don't even improve. And everything has to get swept under the rug. That is the sweeping everything under the rug family. Imagine children in that family and everything being swept under the rug all the time. And then those children never feeling like they're ever getting any attention. So the girls all end up turning into exploders and ultimately feminists as a result of that situation. And the boys grow up in isolation entirely, and they all end up unconscious developed and explosive, potentially ending up being like bullies and the problem kids at schools. That too is a big deal. And this is extremely common. This is an extremely common result of the implosive relationship. Do you know what's even worse about the implosive relationship? The rest of their family is consistently bothered, especially financially and emotionally, to give resources to support the imploder relationship, because what you have is two black holes in a relationship, and it just becomes this giant suck and drain on literally every person in their lives. Implosive relationships are absolute hell. At least with two exploders, things get so explosive, and then it becomes obvious to the exploders that they're probably not really good for each other, not likely to do commitment. But imploders realize it when it's too late. And a lot of other people have to come in and explain it to them over time. This is really, really bad and extremely common. A very common thing among these imploder-imploder relationships. But how do imploder-imploder relationships actually happen? How do they happen? Well, they do. And they happen because church or fundraising or political stuff or soft libraries, soft social areas where the imploders go when they're not at home, or maybe, you have that imploder girl who doesn't go out and she's getting older. She's 27, 28, 29 especially, and her family's pressuring her to get married, and they go find some loser at church, some other imploder, thinking that they're similar enough and that's really good for compatibility, and they'll try to matchmake them. But the point is that imploder-imploder relationships are ultimately created through referral and through other people because those other people just feel bad for them. And that's what ends up happening. They just feel bad. Imploder-imploder relationships get this way. And it starts at church. Because imploders go to church. Because it's safe. They love feeling safe, especially socially. Socially safe. Being socially safe is so important to an imploder. And so they have this socially safe environment. And then you have a bunch of stupid people around them in the socially safe environment where there isn't really good quality decision making, because you need to have better decision making. You need exploders for that, because they're more mentally invested in proper judgment instead of how things look. But the safe environment's like, oh, you two would look good together. And then the imploders just go along with it and believe them. And then end up in a relationship they never wanted, because they feel obligated or pressured or whatever. And then as a result, it creates this endless cycle of misery, of everything being swept under the rug. And it leads to them cold shouldering each other and all this covert abuse and never being open and honest about anything, including their family members outside of their relationship. And then they end up becoming covertly abusive to their children and constantly prioritizing their own comfy time and their own comfort above even their own children. And there's no leadership, and they're looking for leadership in their own marriage from their other external family, and it's just hell for everyone. Congratulations, you just ruined lives because you are ignorant of psychology and ignorant of the Octagram. Congratulations, you idiots. What are you doing? How can you allow this to happen? Obviously, the solution is make sure when you're looking at a relationship or a marriage, if you're recommending someone to get with someone else, make sure one is an imploder and one is an exploder. Okay? Because there's a higher chance of success to prevent this situation based on covert abuse. Imagine all the children being neglected in an imploder-imploder relationship. I have literally watched 2 imploders in a sexual relationship, and they keep churning out children. They have like 5 or 6 children, and constantly going to the exploder grandmother of those children and using that exploder grandmother in such a way to even get those children to bed, because both of those imploder adults, those imploder parents, are too weak to discipline, too weak to punish, too weak to hold those children accountable, because they themselves, because imploders are really good at this, avoiding accountability. And I had to listen to this explosive grandmother yell at the top of her lungs, even though she lived multiple states away, to get these children to go to bed. And it would happen every single night. I would give my friend a lot of shit about this, because I would call it yelling hour. When his own mother, who was grandmother to his brother's children, would have to take this place. And the children, they're suffering. These children are suffering consistently. Even to the point where I'm like, hey, that particular child that is your niece might be a good idea if she just moved in with you before her life is ruined, bro. Like, holy shit, it's so bad. It's so bad. What a dysfunctional family. And that's the result. But you imploders, you like playing it safe. and you want to be set up with someone and have this done-for-you solution. Doesn't matter if it's a man or a woman, they always want these done-for-you solutions, and it's really disgusting. It's disgusting because it creates a dysfunctional family environment that is harmful to children, especially. Yeah, it's harmful to the adults too, but it's especially harmful to the children. And these safe environments like church, or even sometimes even at the workplace, right? These imploders end up with imploders, and especially the implosive woman who wants to do everything at the last minute, and she's finally 29, and she's feeling all the pressure in the world to get married, ends up with a loser. Because that's all she can attract, because she's wasted all of her fertile years, her 18 to 25 fertile years. And now she can only attract a loser. And she's not going to be in her 20s, and she's going to be in her 30s. She's literally, she's an old maid at this point. Because like you have, it starts out, they get to about 26 years of age, and a woman is a spinster at that point. She's a spinster. Great. And then as she gets closer to about 29, she's a thornback. And then she's in her 30s, and boom, she's an old maid. And then she's an old maid, yeah. And then she gets closer to her 40s, boom, she's a cougar. It's like, wow, pathetic, gross, disgusting. And it's even more disgusting that this culture has created this stupid, subconscious developed dating environment, which is literally ruining everyone. Everyone. The exploders on exploders, they suffer. And the imploders on imploders, they suffer too. And these are how these people are suffering. And everyone is just so entirely and utterly ignorant of it. Is anyone just going to, step up and talk about it? Is anyone actually going to notice? Is there going to be a leader within a family who's just going to put their foot down and be like, no, this is stupid, stop behaving this way? You folks need to understand compatibility. You need to understand proper matchmaking. Imploders oftentimes rely on referrals. Stop making bad referrals. Or imploders, maybe you should stop being so scared of rejection. Because guess what, folks? Imploders, they need not relying on referral is actually bad for them. Why? Because imploders need to be able to develop crushes. They need to get with their crush. Imploders are who crush. Exploders don't crush. Okay? Imploders are all about crushing, and they need to crush. And so but here's the problem. If imploders are spending all their time at home or in their comfortable environments, they'll never develop a crush. Ask an implosive woman, a cute girl, not a hot chick, but a cute girl. Ask her who she's crushing on. If she ain't crushing on anyone, she's screwed. Her life is not good. Her life is shit. That's absolutely terrible. You don't want to be in that situation. That is absolutely terrible. I feel bad for her. Her life is going to be ruined. Here's the thing, though. You need to get her out of the safe environments. Go with her so that she is safe, but go with her in more risky environments, where exploders are. Because exploders like risky. And then have her, witness and be around explosive men. And then eventually she'll start developing a crush. And at that point, introduce her to her crush, or help her introduce herself to her crush. It's all about developing a crush. Crush, crush, crush. Going in the direction of the crush is how an imploder gets it. Implosive men, it's so funny. They're always crushing on girls, but then you have other implosive men like Rollo Tomasi talking about, chapter 1 of The Rational Male, talking about there's no such thing as the one. Yes, that's true. There is no such thing as the one. He's right about that. But what he should have added in that freaking chapter is talk about how implosive men like himself have a need to crush on a girl. The problem is that when an implosive man is doing that thing where he's crushing on a girl, he needs to not put her on a pedestal and believe or think that she's the one, basically. That's not what's to happen. That's absolutely terrible. Isn't it any wonder that Adam, the first man, according to the Bible in the book of Genesis, he was implosive. He was subconscious developed. He put Eve on a pedestal, even though Eve had sex with the serpent and gave her virginity to the serpent. instead of, saving that for Adam. Wow. Terrible. Okay, and she's an exploder woman, right? She just made that unilateral decision, as explosive women often do. Yeah, so it's disgusting. It's wrong. So here's the thing. Imploders need to be in an environment with exploders so that they can start crushing on a particular exploder. And then they need to admit their crush. And guess what? Exploders are already pre-primed mentally to receive the crush. And if they know that an imploder is crushing on them, they're very less likely to reject the imploder, especially if the explosive man is a polygynist. Then that's not, the biological concept of mate choice copying comes into play for an implosive woman, and she gets the benefit of mate choice copying. And then that means she's making a more informed, safer choice of man because he already has established marriages, right? And she will see how that man takes care of his women, and she can be cared for in the same way. And that's just a polygynist example. Many of you are not ready for that conversation. So, but anyway, this is how you get around it. This is how you deal with this situation. Don't allow an imploder-imploder relationship exist. I guarantee you in an imploder-imploder relationship, they never actually had a crush. And they should be crushing. And guess what? An imploder-imploder relationship, they're going to crush on people outside of their relationship. An imploder-imploder relationship, in my opinion, has the highest chances of infidelity and cheating. Watch out, folks. You don't want to do that. You don't have anything to do that. So, all right, I think I've hammered this pretty well. Thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.